Big news! Wayfair's tax refund sale is on now. Right now through March 2nd, you can score up to 70% off furniture, decor, appliances, rugs, and more. With fast and easy shipping straight to your door. Plus, amazing flash deals. Shop Wayfair's tax refund sale now to make the most of your refund with huge savings through March 2nd at wayfair.com.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
911, what's the nature of your emergency?
Welcome back to the Tactical Living Podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Walton, joined by Sergeant Walton. Clint, how are you?
I'm good.
You know, I've only had to call 911 for myself because I was in danger one time. And there's something about waiting on that call and waiting for help to arrive where as soon as they get there, it's like all of the control is now given to law enforcement. And I thought we could talk a little bit about that today because I also think that there's a cost of always being in control, especially when you don't know how to balance it at home.
Yeah, it's a very interesting kind of dynamic when, especially this is something that I try showing my guys all the time is like, one, we had to have an understanding from the law enforcement perspective of whatever incident that we're going to is something very important to that individual who has called us, and that duration in which they're waiting for us to respond to it is always tricky. But when you have to give up control over something that is completely out of your hands, it's a very tricky situation.
Yeah, and control, I think, often looks like strength. It's discipline. It's preparedness a lot of the times. I think emotional containment too. And there comes this time, though, when control can become a constant survival strategy instead of a situational skill. And when that happens, then it can erode your connections. It can erode your rest, your intimacy, your emotional safety. And this can be at home and for yourself internally.
Yeah, and I think with practice, with figuring out what control looks like for you as an individual, it's something that it's hard to relinquish that, especially when you're at work all the time and you are in control and people are looking for you to control those situations and everything that you're dealing with.
You know, I think it's important to understand that this episode's not about losing control, but about understanding when control stops serving you and when it starts protecting you at all costs, even when you didn't intend to pay those costs. And there's a psychological concept, it's called over-control, and it's over-control as a trauma adaptation. And this is basically a nervous system strategy that is developed in environments where you have a lot of unpredictability or danger or responsibility. Clint, for you in law enforcement, you could probably relate to this. And what this does is it keeps you in this containment of staying emotionally hyper-vigilant, hyper-responsible, hyper-self-reliant. And over time, this kind of response, it actually restricts emotional range. And what I mean by that is you're in this constant state all of the time to where you feel like you're in that container and need to operate in it all of the time. And it increases a lot of, it diminishes actually a lot of ways for you to be vulnerable.
Yeah, and I think with having, and the terminology that keeps coming to my mind is relinquishing control, but you're not. You're just making it okay to where you can't control every situation, every dynamic all the time.
Yeah, and it doesn't always have to be you, right? There's this shift, this really cool shift that takes place when you come home to where a lot of that is balanced out or even given to me when you've had to carry that all day long.
Yeah, and when you do that, and when I come home and giving over that shared control and being able to have that balance between your partner, your loved one, it helps alleviate some of those pressures associated to never always being completely in control with everything.
I don't hear a lot of people talk about this often, but as we're talking, I feel like we're getting the point across that it's something that you need to do individually. But there's a lot of work that takes place with the people in your home in order to be able to allow for that to happen in the first place.
Yeah, being able to have those open lines of communication and being able to articulate to one another, like, this is within my control, this is without my control. And there's a lot of actions you can do to be able to share that, have that shared mindset with it.
From all of the conversations I've had with officers in particular, I've seen this kind of play out and look a little bit different for a lot of people. Sometimes it could be that you have a really hard time relaxing or even delegating other things, asking for help. I think too, a lot of times people become really uncomfortable with being open emotionally, or maybe they come home and then they instantly feel responsible for everything, being that busybody who has to take care of everything for everyone, or being that person who has the excuse of needing to have your phone on 24/7 because of work, when in reality, you can't relinquish the control or think that everybody else needs to be able to call you no matter what. And people have a really difficult time with creating boundaries around that. I think too, a lot of times, and I've definitely been guilty of this, I will experience frustration when other people are less disciplined.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the key things with it is, one, if you delegate something to somebody else and they don't follow out that mission or that objective of what they're supposed to be doing to the standard that you would require. And I deal with this at work all the time, is it's easier for me just to do it myself compared to having one of my guys do it. But I look at it as, if I delegate something to them and they're not doing it the way that it either needs to be done or my perception of how it needs to be handled, it's teaching them the different methodologies and ways they can do it.
I see people sometimes that are so closed off at home that they bring that into the home. And instead of asking their wife or their kids or their friends for help with certain things or accepting how they do things, you would rather just take on all of that weight when you get home too. And you don't actually have any time to decompress and to be off when you're off.
Yeah, when you're taking on all these new projects, these new things, because you know they need to get done, but you're not asking for help, which is one of the hardest things for any of us, especially in the law enforcement realm, to do, is ask others for help, because it leads to contention. It leads to having a disagreement over how it's actually done. And it's just easier for you to do it instead of actually just taking that time and having that shared experience with one another.
I was having a discussion with an officer yesterday, and he was talking to me about his night from the night before and how he only slept for 3 hours, and he woke up and he went running with his dog. And it was very evident that what took place with the unexpected call that he went on the night before was really disrupting a lot of things for him. And he's incredibly spiritual, and he has a giant faith in God. And our discussion led into something that had me ending the conversation with saying that I think if God could say something to you right now, he would say, keep talking to me. And so I think that that's one great strategy in order to be able to loosen some of that control without losing confidence.
Yeah, it's being able to, once again, share that control to where you're not always going to be able to control every dynamic within every situation. And it's being okay to have that shared thought, to have your close ones, your loved ones, your people who are your friends, and have that shared responsibility to start alleviating that way. And I think there goes extremes on both sides of it, is where there's some people who don't want any of that control, especially in the law enforcement realm. Especially, I see a lot of the younger the younger officers coming through is they want someone else to take over that control.
I have a giant interest in a lot of different civil trials. So I'm thinking about times where I've reviewed different civil cases. And something that I think is a big mistake when I hear attorneys say this or ask about this is they'll use the term controlling personality. Does he have a controlling personality? Does she have a controlling personality? But the truth is that control is actually protection, and it's not a personality at all. And I think that once you learn this, then you understand that this is learned survival and it's not who you are.
Yeah, and if once you learn that, it's really great because it changes everything when it comes down to it. You're able to, one, you have that control in that articulation of it is you have that control personality, but in all reality, it's not.
Oh, go ahead.
It's something that it's a learned trait.
Yeah, and I think that if there's one tool that we can literally pull from our back pockets constantly, it's to practice selective vulnerability and to understand that not everybody gets access, but some people should.
Yeah, I think being able to especially being able to entrust your loved ones, your partners, your subordinates, and teaching them, okay, if they're not doing it up to the standard that you like, or if they're doing it in such a way that's not correct. I tell this to my guys all the time. There's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, right? And it's being okay with having those different perspectives.
I hope you've gotten some value out of today's episode. If you have, do us a favor, drop a review, subscribe down below, and as always, know that I'm sending you a long, tight hug from my home to yours.